has been over a week since the third and final season of Ricky Gervais' starrer Afterlife was released to stream on Netflix, and we are all still sobbing. Let's dive into what takes place in the third season of the show, how it ties together the entire vibe and theme of the show, and exactly what the emotional final scene of Netflix's Afterlife really meant. The brutality of the show with a quick recap so far. This series has been far from forgiving. There are TV series that tug at your heartstrings and make you emotional. This show, it wraps its fist around your heartstrings and it pulls and pulls until there are no more tears left in you. Mind you, we're not saying this show is brutal in its content per se, as lots of shows address similar issues. It's just brutally honest in showing a very realistic picture of what life can be like. Ever since the show first aired on Netflix back in 2019, it was made evident that this one doesn't kid around. Although it appears to be one of those hilarious comedies, which makes the viewers uncomfortable for laughing, Afterlife has always been much more than that, with the kind of themes that show the addresses grief, suicide, self-loathing, and even depression. It always meant to dive in deeper and address a darker emotional territory in a realistic way, which actually ends up helping a lot of people get a sense of relief that they're not the only ones feeling such a way. Even though we witnessed Tony apparently had a more positive outlook on life by the end of season 1, as season 2 began, we saw him slipping once again, hurting and feeling down, being excessively irritable, trying yet failing, and there's a reason why such creative decisions were made. According to Gervais himself, the reason why season 2's ending felt ambiguous is because it has got to be this way. According to the writer and star of the show, that's exactly how life is. It is up and down. Healing doesn't work the way TV shows and movies make it seem. People don't have one therapeutic conversation and wake up the next day feeling healed and healthy, never to be broken again. Grief is a lifelong process, and this is something people who have actually dealt with grief know very well. Being as brutally honest as the show, Gervais explained that the problems that people face in real life are messy. One day it appears things are getting better, the next they reoccur. Humans often suppress the negative emotions they experience, and sometimes they even move on from the things that broke them, only to have a new thing pop up and the entire cycle repeats itself. Now, let's look into the storyline in the third season. Even though season 2 left fans with an ambiguous ending regarding the relationship between Tony, our protagonist, and Emma, who is a local nurse who used to take care of Tony's father before his passing. The way that Tony handles his relationship with her is terrible, to say the least, but it is as real as it gets. The man, still dealing with the trauma of losing his wife Lisa, continuously and almost helplessly compares each and every aspect of his relationship with Emma to the one he had with Lisa. He not only appears to be hesitant to commit, but he also ultimately decides to put the relationship to rest. The theme of brutal honesty and inspiration from real life continues, because the show doesn't give the audience one of those, sure, it was sad that this guy lost his wife, but look, a new mate for him to have his happily ever after with, which, from the looks of it, is exactly what many of us thought was going to happen, but not the show. No, they had Tony and Emma moving on from a relationship which wouldn't have panned out to have the best of conclusions. This is the rhetoric which makes this series watchable, because sure, it can be intensely heartbreaking, but it also has these little beautiful moments, experiences that we can have despite having lost everything we've ever known, with the people we surround ourselves with. But ultimately, what makes all the difference in the world is the way we see things and the mindset we have whilst dealing with our troubles. Now, Afterlife's ending explained. First, an episode breakdown. The last episode of the show begins with Tony reflecting on yet another memory he shared with his wife Lisa. In the home video that he watches, the couple is sitting with their dog and Tony's dad, and Tony jokes around with her and tells her he does not believe in there being a god or an afterlife. Back at the graveyard, the usual place where Tony hangs out with his friend Anne, the two finally Tony talk about how they each met their spouses. Tony shares that he wishes he'd never teased his wife about there not being an afterlife, even though he knew that deep down, Lisa wanted to believe that heaven exists and that there are angels. He tears up, stating that he hopes she wasn't scared towards the end. Anne tells Tony that angels do exist. She corrects him that these angels don't live in clouds or have wings, and that they are actually the people who work hard to survive in this world and help other people. Some who work for charities because they can't ignore the pain that the world is in, while others have 4 legs and bark. What makes them angels is not what they look like, but rather the fact that they save lives. She ultimately tells Tony that he is her angel, and that he had to be an angel while he was alive by doing good things and being a good person. Her words may seem ordinary to some, like she's stating the obvious, but to someone who, like Tony, who constantly looks for a reason why he still has to live on while everyone he has ever loved is gone, it's exactly what he needed to hear. A beautiful, full circle moment. After his chat with Anne, Tony visits a cancer ward with friend and co-worker Lenny, where he meets a set of twin girls who have both shaved their heads. One of them has cancer, and the other one has done it so she can look like her sister again. Tony asks them their names so he can write about them in the paper, and it turns out that the girl who has cancer is also named Lisa. Tony points this out, and the girl asks where his wife is. Finally, caring enough to not take her hope away from her, Tony tells her that she is at home, making his tea. As the two are leaving the ward, they come across a young boy who asks if Lenny is bald because he's undergoing chemo too. Tony, being Tony, makes jokes about why Lenny is really bald, and the boy, taking to Tony's humor, asks if he will come back. Tony promises the boy that he will come back to see the child every day until he gets better. As the child says that he may end up going to heaven, asking Tony if he believes in heaven, holding himself from tearing up yet again, Tony responds, "Definitely," and the audience gets to experience a gut-wrenchingly beautiful full circle moment. He had just been regretting mocking Lisa for her beliefs, hoping that this interaction would make up for it now. Next, what the emotional final scene in the show really meant. Tony finally having realized that his real superpower is kindness, and giving Lisa's life insurance money to those in need, has finally reached a new phase in his life where he has decided to live on with peace in his heart until it's his time. In the final scene, we see him join his friends at the Tamboree Fair, where he sees each one of them differently, in a more hopeful light. But towards the end, it also becomes evident that he is at peace being in his own little bubble with his dog Brady, who he claimed to have saved his life. Walks away with memories of Lisa in his heart, and eventually, Lisa's shadow fades away, then Brady's, and ultimately, so does Tony's. While fans may have interpreted the scene as Tony dying or leaving the town behind, Gervais actually revealed that it was metaphorical. He shared that it was more of a life goes on moment. The ending actually meant to show that long after everyone is dead and buried, the things that people used to enjoy, the field that Tony walks through, or even the Tamboree Fair, they remain intact. He explained that what the scene portrayed was that we all die, but not today. Giving a beautiful message, the show ends with instilling the thought in the minds of the viewers that we will all die eventually. So while we are still alive, still around and kicking, we have to enjoy and cherish the life that we are given. And truly, life does go on, whether we are around or not. The people we believe we cannot live without, well, they do leave, and we do go on. Because this life is too precious to sit around and worry, or be heartbroken, or cause other people pain. It was a beautiful show, and had an even more beautiful ending. That's a wrap for this video. Thanks for watching.